Morning. The 7,445th meeting of the Security Council is called to order. The provisional agenda for this meeting is the situation in Somalia. The agenda is adopted. In accordance with Rule 37 of the Council's Provisional Rules of Procedure, I invite the representative of Somalia to participate in this meeting. It is so decided. On behalf of the Council, I'll welcome His Excellency Mr. Omar Abdirashid Ali Sharmake, Prime Minister of the Federal Republic of Somalia, who is joining today's meeting by video conference from Mogadishu. In accordance with Rule 39 of the Council's Provisional Rules of Procedure, I invite the following briefers to participate in the meeting. Mr. Nicholas Kay, Special Representative of the Secretary General and Head of the United Nations Assistance Mission in Somalia, and Mr. Maman Sidikou, Special Representative of the Chairperson of the African Union Commission for Somalia and Head of the African Union Mission in Somalia. It is so decided. On behalf of the Council, I'll welcome Mr. Kay and Mr. Sidikou, who are joining today's meeting via video teleconference from Addis Ababa. The Security Council will now begin its consideration of item 2 of the agenda. I wish to draw the attention of Council members to document S 2015-331, the report of the Secretary General on Somalia. I now give the floor to Mr. Nicholas Kay.
Madam President, thank you for this opportunity to brief the Council. I'm glad to be doing so with my friend and colleague Ambassador Maman Sidikou. Yesterday we briefed the African Union Peace and Security Council together, which is why we are joining you today from Addis Ababa. The African Union United Nations partnership in Somalia is unique, it's strong, and it is essential for success. Madam President, let me begin by thanking the Council for its continued support to UNSOM and to the peace-building and state-building process in Somalia. When I spoke to the Council in February, I said I was both excited and worried about the year ahead. I was excited because after too long a pause, there was the prospect of political progress again. And indeed, momentum has been regained. Somalia's third government in less than 3 years is hard at work, and the federal parliament has begun its 6th session. Somalia's federal, regional, and local leaders, parliamentarians, and people from all walks of life are building a federal state, step by step, through dialogue and reconciliation. The prevailing environment of mistrust accumulated over nearly 25 years makes the task difficult and painstaking, but it must continue and it deserves our sustained support. Federal President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, as well as the Prime Minister, Speaker, and the leaders of Puntland, Juba, and Southwest administrations have reiterated their determination to deliver Somalia's Vision 2016 plan without any extension of the term of the Federal Parliament or President in August and September 2016, respectively. There are several important targets the government has set for itself in the coming months, including completing the formation of interim regional administrations and assemblies, advancing the constitutional review, establishing the National Independent Electoral Commission and Boundaries and Federation Commission, and finalizing priority legislation on political parties, citizenship, and elections. Once Parliament has approved the nomination of commissioners for the National Independent Electoral Commission, the NIEC faces a compressed timeline to discharge its duties. Upon its establishment, the Commission will need to decide swiftly on how to implement its mandate. The United Nations will deploy an electoral assessment mission to advise and determine, in close collaboration with stakeholders, the nature and extent of UN electoral support in Somalia. The UN, together with the African Union, IGAD, and the European Union, and member states, continue to support the formation of the interim regional administrations. Many challenges remain, in particular ensuring inclusivity. More needs to be achieved in terms of local reconciliation. Women, minorities and youth must be well represented as part of that inclusivity. Progress on federalism has not been matched by similar progress on the constitutional review process. On the 6th of May, the chairperson of the Independent Constitutional Review and Implementation Commission resigned, but there should be no let-up in moving the process forward. The United Nations is supporting the commissioners and other relevant institutions to start the constitutional review process in earnest without further delay. I am also concerned about the timetable for elections in Somaliland, which were due next month. The recent decision by the House of Elders to postpone elections for 22 months until March 2017 is a disappointment. The UN has joined other international partners in urging a reconciliation of this timetable based on a political consensus among all Somaliland stakeholders. Madam President, the security of UN staff in Somalia remains a priority. Tragically, a terrorist attack in Garowe on 20th of April claimed the lives of 4 UNICEF staff and 3 Somali guards. Al-Shabaab targeted individuals who were working hard to improve the lives of Somali children and families. It was, as President Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud said, an attack against the future of the country. We honour our fallen colleagues by continuing their work. We have to ensure a balance between our duty of care to staff and the delivery of our mandate to support the Somalis. Overall, the UN, agencies, funds and programmes and mission combined have on average 1,400 people deployed through Somalia. We must ensure adequate protection for these teams. In this regard, I want to thank the Council for its support to the expansion of the United Nations Guard Unit, which provides vital protection to UN staff within the Mogadishu International Airport compound and the new offices we have moved into in Mogadishu City. And this is the first time a Security Council mandated mission has operated from outside the airport zone since 1995. Madam President, I remain concerned about security in Somalia and about the threat posed by Al-Shabaab to the wider sub-region, demonstrated by the heinous attack on Kenya's Garissa University in April. We need to monitor closely and be able to respond to any sign that Al-Shabaab is benefiting from their links to extremist groups in Yemen and from the instability there. Counter-terrorism requires efforts on many fronts. I hope that the coming weeks will see even closer cooperation among member states to address this threat at a sub-regional level, including measures to prevent and counter violent extremism. With so much at stake between now and 2016, we can expect Al-Shabaab to do everything it can to derail the political process in Somalia. Renewing the joint Somali and African Union offensive against Al-Shabaab is an urgent priority. I once again pay tribute to the courage of the Somali National Army and our AMISOM colleagues. The AU and UN recently completed a joint mission to Somalia to assess the benchmarks for a UN peacekeeping mission and the impact of the surge of AMISOM troops, and to provide recommendations on the next steps in the military campaign. My colleague Ambassador Sidiku and His Excellency the Prime Minister will brief further on this. Development of the Somali National Army and Somali Police is an imperative for both the defeat of Al-Shabaab and AMISOM's exit strategy. The Gulwade, or Victory Plan, referred to in the Secretary-General's report, seeks to train and equip the SNA for joint operations now. It provides a sound framework, but business as usual will not be enough to support it. A robust architecture for the delivery of international support to the SNA is needed, and we are consulting all partners on the options. A similar plan for the police, including regional police, is also needed. Madam President, I am encouraged that the mechanisms created in 2014 to support the implementation of the New Deal Somali Compact, are starting to perform. The government has exercised leadership in bringing all partners together. A portfolio of 7 programs aligned with the federal government priorities and donor resources, and with a value of over $100 million, has been approved for inclusion in the UN Multi-Partner Trust Fund. I thank all donors who have pledged support and further encourage them to support Somalia's recovery through these mechanisms. However, the alignment and coordination of international assistance behind Somali leadership is uneven. Of the funds generously pledged at Brussels in 2013, only about 10% have been committed through the compact architecture. I encourage all Somalia's partners to adhere to our collective commitments, and especially to increase their use of national systems. Although Somalia's financial system remains high risk, the federal government and its international partners are taking steps within the New Deal framework to ensure robust oversight of the overall governance architecture. There is still a long way to go, but I am pleased to report that a Treasury single account is now in place, creating a single channel for national revenues and payments. Madam President, there is work to do on human rights as well. This year, Somalia will need to report on progress made on their commitments in the Universal Periodic Review. I note with concern that there's been a marked increase in executions and death sentences handed out in 2015, despite Somalia's commitment to put a moratorium on executions. I also remain concerned about threats and intimidation of journalists in Somalia. I welcome the African Union's report on allegations of sexual exploitation and abuse by AMISOM soldiers and commend the work of the investigations team. As the Council has already noted, there is now a need to follow up. Ambassador Sidiku will brief further on this. Madam President, the humanitarian situation in Somalia remains alarming. The numbers speak for themselves. 730,000 Somalis continue to be unable to meet their most basic daily food needs. An additional 2.3 million people are at risk of sliding into the same situation. Among them, over 1.1 million Somalis remain displaced, the majority women and children. This situation requires constant attention, adequate funding, as well as continuous upgrades to our analytical and forecasting capabilities. 1/3 into the year, the humanitarian appeal is only 12% funded, having received only US $100 million of the $863 million needed. The situation could be further compounded by a poor rainy season if that happens, the closure of the Somali remittance operators, and the escalating conflict in Yemen. As of 14th of May, Somalia has received nearly 7,000 arrivals since the 27th of March. The vast majority, about 92%, are Somali nationals, of whom many have refugee status in Yemen. The UN is actively supporting efforts to assist those returning. Madam President, the planned high-level partnership forum on the 29th of July in Mogadishu will be an opportunity for Somalia and its partners to come together to agree on priority actions between now and 2016. But the continued progress between now and then will take sustained attention and commitment on all sides. I believe that UNSOM's mandate remains relevant for the coming year. As the federalism process moves forward, we will adjust the focus of our efforts. Our work in Somalia's regions will become ever more critical, and we will seek to maximize our support to existing and new administrations within our mandate of providing good offices and strategic policy advice. This requires logistical and security support in difficult circumstances. I look forward to a strategic review of UNSOA, also scheduled for July. It will help us to establish what is feasible, including to support emerging administrations where UNSOM does not have a presence. We will continue to update the Council on the adequacy of security arrangements Finally, we will keep under review the preparations for an electoral process in September 2016 and provide further advice on the implications as required. Madam President, while it is too soon to celebrate definitive success in Somalia, I believe we would be missing a strategic opportunity if we failed to appreciate just how much Somalis and the international community are achieving. As we cast our eye over the wider region and beyond, where else do we see a country once mired in conflict that now has progressively better functioning governance, and where political dialogue is replacing the rule of the gun, and where, most importantly, violent extremism is being successfully countered? A country from where once refugees fled in their millions, and which is now receiving refugees from other countries such as Yemen, and is welcoming home its own citizens. It's an honor for me to work in such a context and with such dedicated international partners and brave UN colleagues. The world should not squander this opportunity. We need to reinforce success with increased engagement and resources in the coming period. I'm grateful for the Council's continued support, and I thank you for your attention.
I thank Mr. Nicholas Kay for his briefing. I now give the floor to Mr. Maman Sidikou.
Excellency, Madam President, members of the Security Council, I am humbled and pleased to address Council today on the situation in Somalia. Madam President, I would like to brief the Council on three important developments, namely the prevailing security situation in Somalia, my thoughts on the recently concluded joint AU-UN benchmarking exercise, and the outcomes of the investigation against sexual exploitation and abuse, and the steps that AMISOM has taken to ensure an effective prevention and response regime. There are also significant political developments, especially on federalization process, constitutional review, and the electoral process, which my office has been supporting together with UNSOM and the federal government of Somalia, as has been elaborated by my good friend and colleague Nick Kay during his briefing. Madam President, on the security situation, the overall prevailing security situation in Somalia can be described as one with an elevated terrorism threat levels, characterized by a rise in Al-Shabaab activities, mainly through an increased number of IED assaults and targeted assassinations. Overall, Al-Shabaab activities are likely to continue as their intent and capability to carry out terrorist attacks has not diminished. It is our opinion that targeted assassinations seem to be their preferred tactic due to its high effectiveness and low cost. In response, however, we, and I mean AMISOM together with our Somali counterparts, have boosted our joint operations, especially in urban centers, in order to continue to disrupt Al-Shabaab activities. In terms of offensive operations, let me emphasize that AMISOM troops, together with the Somali National Army, have not relented in our efforts to defeat Al-Shabaab. The conduct of Operations Eagle and Indian Ocean are illustrative of how AMISOM offensive operations against Al-Shabaab have produced positive results, particularly in reducing territorial control by this terrorist group. Be rest assured also that we will be reinvigorating operations against Al-Shabaab as part of the outcomes and recommendations from a recently concluded joint AU-UN mission, and there will be a more prominent resumption of offensive operations in some areas soon. For obvious operational security reasons, I will leave it at that. Madam President, let me now turn to the second issue relating to my thoughts on the outcome of joint AU-UN mission on the benchmarks of a United Nations peacekeeping operation in Somalia and recommendations on the next operation in Somalia and on the next steps in the military campaign which was undertaken last month in Somalia, which was then taken from 14 to 25 April 2015, I'm sorry. AMISOM, the EU Commission, and UNSOM have initiated consultations with the TCCs, the troop contributing countries, and are working at securing their necessary buy-in on the recommendations. The joint mission reviewed the benchmark for United Nations peacekeeping operation Somalia, adopted by Security Council Resolution 2124, and found that while progress is being made at various speeds in different benchmarks, the situation in Somalia as a whole is not conducive for the deployment of a UN peacekeeping operation until the end of 2016 at the earliest. It is gratifying that the joint EU-UN mission in its draft report appreciated that 1. There has been considerable success in reducing Al-Shabaab territorial control, as well as degrading the leadership of Al-Shabaab with the targeted support of partners. Second, this has in turn created essential space for a political process to unfold, especially the federalization process, albeit with uneven progress across the regions. AMISOM and the Somali National Army joint offensives have also provided the space needed for the stabilization efforts in the recovered areas, even though this has also been challenged by a number of important factors. While joint operations resulted in the recovery of territory, Al-Shabaab still retain certain capabilities, mostly employing asymmetric warfare tactics, which have both affected the population's confidence in the SNA and AMISOM, as well as impeded further necessary action against them, largely because AMISOM is not configured and resourced to respond accordingly. In particular, the effectiveness of a force was also undermined by the lack of a bulk of a force enablers and multipliers authorized under UN Security Council Resolution 2124, including helicopters, which could bring about the required degree of agility and flexibility needed to adjust to Al-Shabaab change of tactics. Given the level of threat and the status of a political process, the option of ending the surge in uniformed personnel before the end of 2016 could bring about a serious risk of reversal that could derail the objectives and the vision 2016, as well as risking the success of the investment made by all concerned. Finally, the continued presence of AMISOM is therefore required, potentially until the end of 2016. I therefore, Madam President, welcome the recommendation to extend the duration of a surge with a structured, targeted reconfiguration of AMISOM to respond to evolving realities. Madam President, this extension will enable AMISOM to achieve 3 interlocking objectives. First, to resume offensive operations against Al-Shabaab. This will be conducted under an enhanced AMISOM chain of command in a cross-sector manner when necessary, with specialized capabilities which are mission assets. Such assets would include helicopters, which may be generated from within or without the continent, while recognizing the limitations and risks involved. Second, to enable consolidation and stabilization of the recovered areas. This requires a gradual shift to police, which necessitates an agreement on the rebalancing of AMISOM uniformed personnel numbers at the right time, dictated by an agreed sequencing of operations that is continually adapted. The enabling of policing will free up troops for area security operations, which is a requirement for stabilization. In addition, the establishment of joint AMISOM-UNSOM civilian presence will further enhance the recovery and stabilization efforts. Finally, to secure main supply routes and other routes connecting with newly recovered areas and interim regional administrations. This will ensure free access within and through the newly recovered areas that will in turn facilitate governance, the delivery of services, and humanitarian assistance. This will also enable freedom of movement and force protection for military, government, and local authorities, enable resupply and access for commercial and market traffic. Madam President, while these are noble objectives, which I'm sure Council will no doubt give your blessing to, let me highlight some key assumptions on which these laudable objectives are premised and to which we need to give more careful consideration. If AMISOM is to achieve these objectives, and if we are to make a right decision at this crucial point in our support to Somalia, we need to make some hard decisions regarding, in particular, our support to Somalia security forces. The assumption on the contribution, which could be made by the SNA, but underpinned Security Council Resolution 2124, did not materialize fast enough. When it did, sustainability of the required follow-through operations was severely constrained by the combination of shortage in resources and considerable weaknesses in the chain of command. Today, the Somali authorities have developed a Gulwade victory plan, which we should all support in a coordinated manner. This is critical if we are to turn the SNA into a more effective partner to AMISOM. Second, the logistical support package to AMISOM. Though significantly evolved, shortfalls in logistical support represented an important element among many that contributed to the lack of a continuous pace of operations. The approach in logistical support must therefore take a new direction. The planned strategic review of UNSOA is therefore critical and should, among others, recognize the need for both quantitative and qualitative capacities expansion for UNSOA, as well as the need to adapt UNSOA to the nature of AMISOM operations as well as its other clients. Number three, in addition, the benchmarking exercise proposed two recommendations on the role of AMISOM police component. The first is the deployment of FPUs to provide operational and logistical support and bolster the confidence of a national police force. The second is to individually deploy police officers, IPOs, to provide support to the vetting, recruitment, training, and mentoring of local Somali police personnel. Madam President, as Somalia continues to work towards establishing rule of law institutions, the federal government has signed memorandums of understanding with the interim regional administrations. This is a timely development, and AMISOM police will support the recruitment, vetting, training, and deployment of 600 police officers for each of the administrations. The role of AMISOM police in support of Somalia necessitates the establishment of a support package for Somali police force that comprise of elementary infrastructure, rudimentary equipment, and sustainment items required to commence policing operations in the region or in the regions. The final report of a benchmarking exercise, jointly developed by both the AU and the UN, will be submitted to Council soon, and I look forward to your consideration and announcements of its recommendations. Madam President, I would like to conclude by addressing the outcomes of the independent investigations of the allegation of sexual exploitation and abuse allegedly perpetrated by AMISOM personnel, and as was reported by Human Rights Watch in June 2014. As I have stated severally, let me again solemnly before Council reiterate AMISOM leadership commitment to enforcing the African Union's zero tolerance policy. We will continue to respect the dignity of all Somali women and girls and to uphold the religious and cultural values of Somalia as AMISOM continues to implement its mandate to restore peace and stability in the country. Madam President, beyond concluding that two of the allegations contained in the Human Rights Watch report are indeed proven cases of sexual exploitation and abuse perpetrated by AMISOM soldiers, the investigation team made a number of observations and recommendations to strengthen existing mechanisms that the Commission and the troop and police contributing countries to AMISOM have put in place to address SEA. These recommendations are informing our response, and we have already taken the following specific actions. I have issued directives to a force commander, police commissioner, and other senior missions leadership to immediately implement the recommendations contained in the investigation report. We have moved out all the shops from the AMISOM base camp. We are restructuring the camp to prevent unauthorized access of AMISOM personnel to Somalis living within the mission area. The AU Commission has recruited and deployed a conduct and discipline officer to the mission. We are instituting a hotline in AMISOM in order to specifically respond to the challenges noted in the investigation report of victims and witnesses. As a means to encouraging more reporting of sexual exploitation and abuse cases and confidence building, the AU Commission, with input from AMISOM, has developed a whistleblowers policy that we expect will be passed by the policy organs of the AU this year. The Commission, with input from AMISOM, has also prepared a draft annex to the existing Memorandum of Understanding between the Commission and the troop and police contributing countries, intended to present a more robust response to SEA and improve prevention efforts, accountability, and reporting of troop and police contributing countries on SEA, and also ensure that victims receive the necessary support. Madam President, given that conduct and discipline is primarily a responsibility of police and troop contributing countries, the Commission has shared the detailed reports with the troop and police contributing countries and requested for their response and comment on the findings ahead of a meeting with the police and troop and contributing countries and Somalia in order to agree on the concrete steps to be taken to implement the recommendations contained in the report. Madam President, I truly thank you and Council for your attention.
I thank Ambassador Siriku for his briefing. I now give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Omar Abdirashid Ali Sharmarke.
Madam President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, there has been a political and security development, as the SLSVK and Ambassador Siriku informed you. In recent months, there has been, I think, some tangible progress, and the federal government of Somalia has put forth a victory plan aims to rapidly enhance the capacity of the Somali National Army to fight Al-Shabaab alongside AMISOM, and it spells out the support of the SNA requires to be more effective in the joint operations. I urge our partners to support this plan to enable the SNA to then assume more responsibility to secure the country. A crucial component of the plan and the development of Somalia's defense sector is the process of integrating regional militias into the Somali army. With the inauguration of the National Integration Commission under the auspices of the Defense Ministry on May 12th, we will now begin to see some real momentum and tangible progress in this priority area. The agreed allocation of regional mission forces to be transferred to the Somali National Army indicate a clear and strong commitment of the regional administrations to embrace the federalization of our armed forces. Priority is being given to the integration of 2,880 troops from Jubaland, where the Al-Shabaab still maintains several strongholds. As I speak, the Defense Ministry is in Jubaland, where to kickstart the integration process. Another pressing priority is the integration of 3,000 militias personnel allocated from Puntland. The Puntland forces are already fighting Al-Shabaab, which has established another stronghold in Gollaha mountains, following the pressure from the military campaign in southwest Somalia last year. Puntland is expected to be the ultimate point to fight Al-Shabaab due to the difficult terrain that offers the groups shelter. We need to defeat Al-Shabaab and prevent them to consolidate and expand their presence in Puntland before the situation becomes too serious to handle. The Al-Shabaab threat in Puntland is heightened by the events unfolding in Yemen. If extremist elements come and take root in Puntland together with Al-Shabaab, it will be very difficult to dislodge and defeat them in the future. We have a window to address them now. I therefore appeal to the Security Council to authorize UNSWA to extend non-military support package to the additional 3,000 personnel from Puntland earmarked for the integration of the SNA. This would bring the total SNA troop benefiting from the UN support package to 13,900. Looking ahead, it's also vital that we also incorporate into this process the integration of regional police force. This will play a central role in accelerating the transition to police primacy, both on the federal and regional levels, which we all know is essential to long-term stability in Somalia. On the political aspect, Vision 2016 remains the policy framework that encapsulates our political objectives. There has been a progress in moving ahead with the process in the central regions, and the federal structures are taking shape quite rapidly. The last remaining state, which is the Johar and Hiran state, is about to be kick-started in the next week or so. The federal leaders also continue to engage regional leaders. In our last meeting in Gollaha, the constitutional review has been really progress and in discussing the constitutional review process, including the security sector, power and wealth sharing, and other issues of post-integration. Federal and state leaders agreed to establish a committee to review wealth sharing legislations and to move forward on the constitutional review process. Fiscal mobilization under the New Deal Compact has been quite positive. On 2nd April, the Somali Development and Construction Facility, the SRDF, Steering Committee approved in principle 6 joint projects to be implemented by the federal government of Somalia and state organizations with support channeled through the United Nations Multi-Partner Trust Fund. This is a crucial step toward unlocking resources and accelerating delivery of tangible results. In May 2015, the Council of Ministers nominated members of the National Independent Electoral Commission, the Judicial Service Commission, and the Boundary of Federation Commission. The authorization of these commissions is top priority for the federal government, and we're expecting the federal parliament to endorse quite very soon. Efforts establishing a new federal state in the Gulgud and South Mudug regions are progressing, and the reconciliation conference is ongoing. Planning has begun for the constitution process towards formation of federal states in the last remaining state. The establishment of the Jubaland in Parliament was a welcome note. However, there has been some issues of inclusivity that arose from the process. The federal government is working closely with the IGA, the interim Juba administration, and opposition leaders to find compromise and accommodation to solve the crisis over the formation of Jubaland Regional Assembly. Last but not least, the federal government is working very closely on the refugee issues with Kenya, so we have an orderly return of our refugees from the Daawo camp. We're also working with authorities in Yemen to assist displaced persons to return to Somalia. We are faced with a situation that is very much concerned to the UN and everybody in the region, that of dealing with the human cost of violence in Yemen. The UNHCR is expecting actually 100,000 refugees to arrive from Yemen to Somalia over the next 6 months. Somalia is already home to approximately 1 million IDPs. We do not have the internal resources nor the capacity to absorb additional refugees. Therefore, we appeal also to the Council to really mobilize the UN system and donors to have a contingency plan on the ground for these refugees fleeing from Yemen. I thank you for the opportunity, and I hope that the Council considers our appeal. Thank you very much.
Thank His Excellency Prime Minister Sharmarke for his statement. There are no more names inscribed in the list of speakers. I now invite Council members to informal consultations to continue our discussion on the subject. This meeting is adjourned.